What's up, Pleasure Martians? So I reacted to the part one of this interview with SS Rajamouli and Russo brothers. Great response from you guys. So here's the part two.
And I do feel actually that RRR and Bahubali have changed that narrative to some degree because they do really hold up on very to the highest standards. But I want to ask you: is budget usually the only reason that maybe some of our best action sequences do not look as big as they would, as maybe the American films that we see?
No, budget is definitely a reason, but it's not the first reason. It is. I mean, if you have the intent of really going big, and you have, like they were saying, if you have a great team to support, those are the first principle things. You should have the intent, you should have a team, you should have a vision, and then comes the budget. And most of the time, if you have the first three, the budget will somehow come in and support. Like the kind of action sequences that we did for Bahubali was like, the first is like in 150 crores, which is like peanuts for the kind of budget for the action that we did.
To the Russos, you've made these big box office blockbusters for the studios. Why was Netflix the right home for The Grey Man?
Well, look, Joe and I, in conceiving The Grey Man and wanting to make it, we did want to construct a film that was extremely ambitious on an action level, and that was the experience for the lead characters and for the audience would be that of just running a gauntlet from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. So I think the scope of it, Netflix was in a period of great growth, and they were wanting to be very ambitious in terms of what they could accomplish as a studio. And they just wanted to support the film in the most strong way, and that's really why it felt right with Netflix. It just seemed to the ambition of the movie seemed to line up with their appetite for what they wanted to do as a studio, and they've been perfect partners. We already had a working relationship with them. We've produced several movies with Netflix up to this point, and we have a very strong, easy, successful partnership with them established. So once we knew that they had the appetite for a movie like this, that's where it all clicked.
Also the one
Mr. Rajamouli, I think it's fair to say that after a very successful theatrical run, RRR was practically sort of rediscovered when it streamed on Netflix. The American critics discovered it. It became this critics' darling. A whole new audience sort of found out about RRR. There's some very serious talk of Oscar potential. Were you surprised by just how much attention the film was getting after it began streaming?
Yeah, there are two questions in your question. One thing is like, first of all, I'm actually angry with Netflix because they took only the Hindi version, not the rest of the four. So that is, I have a complaint against them. Second thing is, yes, I was surprised with the reception from the West. Like we were discussing before, a good story is a good story for everyone. But I didn't think I could make films for Western sensibilities. I never believed myself. So when it came out on Netflix and
he never believed in
started
himself.
Watching it, and the word of mouth started spreading when the critics started giving out a good reviews for that. Yes, I was really surprised, and yes, it wouldn't have been possible without Netflix. For that, I have great regard for them.
Have the two of you seen anything of RRR? Have you seen?
Well, I've seen RRR.
Oh.
It's amazing. It's incredible. I mean, I think what's so
This is
amazing
the
about
the
it
part.
is the level of emotion that it evokes, combined with the spectacle. And I would say that, we have found that one of the advantages of digital distribution, we seem to be in a position where we're always defending an agnostic approach to, filmmaking, because we see value in all levels of distribution, whether it be theatrical or digital. But digital has, endorsed and allowed for more diversity than Hollywood has. And I would say in 5 years, it's probably done more for diversity and access to diverse and international films than Hollywood has done in 50 years.
Wow, that's a
I
big
think that's
statement.
critically important.
That's a
And I
big
think
statement.
That, it's broken down barriers for
sure.
again, for people to, on a popular level, to watch films that are subtitled. And it's been a long time, I think, since I can't remember when theatrically it was a popular concept to watch films with subtitles. So I think there's a real value in that, and I think when you're talking about RRR finding a new audience via digital distribution, that is a primary example of the value of it. A show like Squid Games would never have worked in any other format than through digital distribution.
Correct.
And it became an international phenomenon. So I think audiences are getting a window now into true Indian cinema, true Korean filmmaking in ways that are very valuable, and I think going to inform and inspire a new generation of filmmakers all over the world. And where they're going to be taking elements from all of their favorite movies from every region and their favorite stories and combining them in a way that I think will be very unique and very fresh.
Has the idea of what a film is, has that been redefined? Because all of you really make these big, epic cinematic experiences, which I think most people would agree need to be seen on a big screen, in a movie theater. And yet, The Grey Man goes out to roughly 200 countries. RRR was sort of had a new lease of life when it dropped on Netflix. The idea of what a film is that in this sort of climate, perhaps in this world now, been redefined then?
I think it's evolving. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's evolving dramatically, and I think, the way that I won't speak for Raja, but I will say that I know that the way that we think, that the 2-hour closed narrative is a well-tread narrative. It's a form that is very difficult to see, reinvention. It's very difficult to surprise people with the 2-hour closed narrative. That's how we feel anyways, which is why we're more interested in long-form storytelling. It can be more surprising. Also, it's just really a amount of time that the audience spends watching something. So you kill a character after they spent an hour watching a movie, it has a certain impact on them. They watch 8 hours of a story, and then you kill the character, it has an even more dramatic impact on them. So there is there's more potential in our mind for revolutionary storytelling in long form.
Is Rajamouli thinking about
push it,
creating a web series now?
Universe building.
I mean, that's an exciting
but for
idea.
Us, all that means is a longer narrative than just
I'm sure
a
he has
2-hour
already thought
story.
about it.
And that to us is where we're most compelled to go. As
That would be
storytellers.
quite
Sorry,
something.
Raj, I didn't mean to jump in, but I'd love to hear your point of view on this.
Yes.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with you. Just add to that. See, every storyteller, when he narrates a story, he wants his story to be heard by a larger number of audience.
Correct.
And he will be very greedy in that aspect. He needs more and more audiences to listen.
Yeah,
to
so that's
his,
not white man
story.
validation.
And there
We
is
just
no
want
way
more people to acknowledge.
we can have that kind of reach without digital distribution. Netflix being at the forefront of it, without having those kind of partners. We can't even imagine. I mean, the kind of reception RRR is getting now. We can't even imagine without Netflix taking it to so many countries, so many varied cultures, so many people speaking different languages. Being said that, again, my first love is always cinema. That is where I discovered my love for.
He's a purist.
And there is a kind of scare in my fear in my heart that digital distribution might completely eat away the cinema. That's a scare. I know it is not true. Eventually they will settle down. There will be cinemas will be a kind of film viewing experience. Digital distribution will be a different kind. Television will be a different kind of viewing experience. I think three of them will coexist, but the scare and fear is there.
I'll say this. I think to your point about it sort of settling down at one point, I think India is a great proof that the theatrical experience will always be a wholly unique version of film going and distinct from streaming, because the energy that you get within the movie theater is just like nothing else that you can experience on your own or in a smaller home environment. And that's something that we sort of love as well, that sort of that collective experience when you're sitting in a theater together, you're feeling one another's energy, and you go on the ride with a whole theater full of people. That's another experience altogether.
You know, Mr. Rajamouli, I have to ask you, the abiding love for the big screen movie and the big screen entertainment aside, has just the experience that you've had with RRR since it dropped on Netflix, is that tempting you in any way to perhaps do something straight for streaming?
I have some of the ideas which I have been contemplating to take for streaming, irrespective of the success of RRR. For a long time, for example, the Ponniyin Selvan, which Mandaratnam sir is doing now, for a long time I had that in my mind to make it for streaming, because that is the perfect way to tell that particular story. You can't tell that story easily in a film, but if you have if you have a web series kind of thing where it is like, now you can tell the story in 8 hours.
I've heard that
hours,
about that
hours,
film,
the
base story.
There are many stories that we have which
very
web
ambitious.
series is a right platform.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Joe was explaining a bit earlier. I have few of the thoughts like that, and that has got nothing to do with the success of
I felt that about films like Da Vinci Code, which should not be a film, it should be a web series.
Can you talk about what cinema meant to you growing up? Was it a big influence, and what were the films that changed your lives?
Big influence films. For me, as a very young boy, Telugu films that I have watched, particularly from Vijaya Production House, Maya Bazaar, Misrama, those are the classics of Telugu cinema. They had a huge impact on me. A little later, films like Ben-Hur, even today, I have said that so many times. I think I told you itself so many times that I have watched it like hundreds of times. Just the Chariot Race I would have watched. Chariot Race I would have watched 1,000 times. And Braveheart. Mel Gibson is my favorite director. I get inspired so much from his real storytelling. All his films had a big impact on me. I can go on and on about the number of films that had impact on me. Even today, even till date.
For us, films were very important to us when we were young, but so were music was very important. We were sort of into the arts in general and very much into pop culture, all forms, television, like I said, music. But movies were central, and we loved everything. We had a big appetite. We would watch sort of popcorn filmmaking, that all your friends and family were watching, and you can enjoy that together. But we were also into more obscure movies as well. We grew up near a Cinematheque in Cleveland that had a great program of art cinema and global cinema. So we got exposed to a lot of films that weren't sort of playing for the mainstream or playing widely. So we had look, at the end of the day, while we would geek out on a lot of obscure stuff, we were very much into the French New Wave and Francois Truffaut, but at the end of the day, it was those movies that everybody else was watching. It seemed to be the most fun and energizing because you could connect to other people through the movies. And so the bigger sort of Star Wars and Indiana Jones and the bigger sort of Hollywood commercial adventure films were big touchstones for us as well.
You know, I have to ask the film geek question. What do you like when you're on the set? Are you patient? Are you anxious? Are you just raring to go? What is the temperament like when you're on set?
We prep diligently because we're a duo, so we have to collaborate. We have to talk through our process exhaustively before we get to set. But we have a crew too that we've worked with for many years that is part of that process now as well. So our development process is very disciplined, but efficient. So when we're on set, we're executing as efficiently as possible. It's hard, it's long hours on set. People are away from their families, so we like to be respectful of their time and be decisive. But we like to keep it very light. There's lots of jokes. Expectations are for a level of professionalism, again, that is respectful. Our mood, though, is generally very light and easygoing geared towards problem solving.
Mr. Rajamouli, what do you like?
I so wish I could be like them. I'm very, very patient with the actors because I can't upset them, and because ultimately the audiences are going to see their faces. Their faces have to be the way they should be. So I can't get upset with them. I'd be very, very patient with them, but I blow my top off with the rest of the unit.
It is frustrating, that's for sure.
I want to end by asking all three of you, what is the last thing that you saw that made you go, wow, I wish I'd made that?
I just finished Stranger Things season 4, and I thought that the scale, and again, I don't want to get into a long conversation about long-form storytelling versus 2-hour closed, but the scale of it was as big as anything I've seen. It had an ensemble that I cared about, all the characters, and a villain that was frightening. And I thought, that the Duffer Brothers had really ascended to the ranks of, biggest filmmakers in the world with that season. I'm just more compelled by, that sort of robust storytelling. I also quite liked The Boys season 3 for the same reason. Scale, ensemble, thematics
the skill
that were
of
really
Boys
powerful.
has been consistent, I think, across the
and
three
I tend to
seasons.
find that I'm more
Consistent
more
across the three
compelled
seasons.
by longer form pieces than so in general. I think I just respond more to shows than I do to movies now.
This isn't the latest thing, but it just popped into my head when you asked the question because it was such a resonant thing for me. I remember when we saw the original Iron Man movie, the first Iron Man movie, for the first time, and I think we can forget about this a lot because there ended up being so many sort of good films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that original Iron Man movie was mind-blowing.
It was.
The way they combined spectacle and character, and the
It's a
way they
great
sort of
superhero film. It just got
the
kind of
approach to
overshadowed
superhero in that
by
movie.
Dark Knight, which is
It
obviously
was
a
just
better.
never seen anything
Film.
like that before. And it
Correct.
seemed so tonally modern.
Correct.
That I remember having that feeling of wow, they got that. I wish we could have done that.
For you, Mr. Rajamouli?
Not in the recent past, like Anthony was saying. One of the films was Bajrangi Bhaijaan. I wish I could have directed it if I had applied a little bit mind. I could have blocked the story for myself, but I didn't. I regret that. And not a film, but I used to play a game called Prince of Persia. I was really addicted to that game 15 years back, something 12, 15 years back. I really thought it would be very nice to make that character, write a story about that character and make it to a movie. I really thought.
There is
Later,
time.
Disney made it. Those two I wish I could have made it.
You can make it
Who knows, a
again.
reboot maybe on the
Yes,
card.
why not?
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajamouli. Thank you to Joe and Anthony. This was really every film.
Thank you,
geek's,
Rajeev Masand,
Thank you so much. This was
Thank
so
you
for
very
bringing
much.
them
Amazing questions,
together.
Raja. Such a pleasure. Huge
Yeah.
fans again. Thank you.
So,
Again, with folded hands.
To meet you, but we should catch up. We should really catch up with what you'd like to be.
Please
We look
catch up.
forward to that. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for putting us together in this and for all your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wow, that is a great interview. It felt like a very organic interview. Of course, he had all those questions prepared in advance, but it felt like a very organic interview, flowed through well, and so many great points. It's sad that I keep forgetting. My memory doesn't allow me to retain things. They will come back to me after I hit the stop button. But let's talk of long form storytelling. I don't think anybody disagrees with Russo brothers there. You have so much more time to really make an impact on audience with a particular move, with a particular story point. Like they gave an example, or there can be any example. When you are invested in a character for a period of 8 hours, 16 hours, 20 hours, you care more about what happens to them, what they go through, as opposed to a film that is just 2 hours long. Having said that, that doesn't take much away from cinema. I myself, I'm not really into web series. I don't have patience to sit and watch a story unfold over the course of, I don't know, 8 hours, sometimes 50 hours, because web series sometimes do not have closure, at least for the 5 seasons. So, but I still do. I've watched about 40 odd, maybe 30 odd web shows till now. I think most of you must have watched like 300 web shows till now. I've barely watched 30 or 40 of them. A minimum one season, I'm saying. So I agree with Rajamouli as well, because like he's a purist. He still believes in the power of cinema, and you cannot have a theatrical experience with web series. Obviously, that's impractical, and it's great. They also made a point that people have over the last decade, especially over the last 2 years, people are now more open to watching films with subtitles. uh, Earlier it was like, even not just Americans. There is a lot of talk that Americans have learned to watch movies with subtitles, so they watch foreign films. Even with Indians, if I just talk about talk closer home, like North Indians, we either do not watch South Indian films, or those of us who actually watch South Indian films a lot, most of us watch them. Not us, I won't include me, but most of the people I know, they watch South Indian films in Hindi dubbed. And I cannot understand how, I don't understand how people enjoy that, because I have seen quite a few films from South India dubbed in Hindi, and I have never had a good experience, not even once, except for RRR, because one, the actors dubbed it themselves, and I thought it was easier. There was a strong story, but it was not overly complicated. The latest film that I watched was Vikrant Rona. Unfortunately, I watched it in Hindi, and it's very complex. There are so many subplots within the main plot in Vikrant Rona. There is so much happening. Like I said in the review, there is investigation of murders, there is a love story, there is a family drama, there are multiple villains, there are multiple distractions, and all of it I was watching people speak in Hindi. The dub it was very confusing. The Hindi dubbing ruined it for me. So it's a good thing that people are now more open to watching movies or shows in original language with subtitles. Hopefully that will also change things. Now OTT platforms or even the movie halls will start showing movies in the original language, though I don't think it's changing. Like Vikrant Rona was released in the original language in like 4 movie halls across Delhi. 4. That's ridiculous. But let's see. Let's hope we have something. Things keep changing and amazing. Again, it was great. It's some sort of a coup, right? Rajeev Masand, thank you, Rajeev Masand, for bringing them together. It was great. They were exchanging their ideas, they were exchanging their experiences. There is an overlap, considerable overlap, but there are also differences in their process, in their thought process, or in how they go about making their films, and it is so fascinating to watch. Uh, like the biggest three of the biggest directors. One is a director Do, and then Rajamouli in an interview. And of course, being an Indian, there's a different touch to it. An Indian is being interviewed alongside the Russo brothers. It's an honor because they are huge directors. Not because they're white people. As it's not an honor because they're white people. It's an honor because people across 200 countries know this pair of brothers, and our Indian director is being interviewed, a Telugu director. It's that makes me proud. That I'm sure that makes you proud as well. So it was a great it was a great viewing experience. This interview, I had a lot of fun. It was a very learning experience, very fascinating. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. See you with the next video, whichever topic it will be on. Maybe a review, maybe something else. So yeah, see you.